Hello, I'm Stephen Fox. I'm a bankruptcy attorney. I represent businesses in Chapter 11 business reorganizations all over the United States of America, and I represent creditors in Chapter 11s looking to protect their interests. I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I only recommend bankruptcy if it is the best solution. I have a personal prejudice. I happen to think that bankruptcy, specifically Chapter 11, is one of the greatest inventions this country has ever come up with. Where else could you have a law that says that a company which has failed can get a safe harbor, a place to try to rebuild, a place to grow, a place to thrive, and then to propose a plan to pay creditors amounts of money that the company can afford to pay and on a time schedule that the company can afford? Chapter 11 bankruptcy in this country is better than anywhere else on the planet. Today, I want to talk to you about what I want to know, what I want to discuss with you before we file a Chapter 11 business reorganization. First, I want to see financial reports. I want to see the company's P&L statements, cash flow statements, receivables reports, payables reports. I want to see balance sheets. I want to see any financial report that the company uses that is relevant for the company. Why? There are a couple of reasons. One, the numbers give a lot of good information. Two, if you aren't keeping your reports up to date, that tells me something as well. And by the way, sometimes owners of companies have told me, well, we're 2 or 3 years behind on our financial reporting, so should we wait to come and see you until we have some bookkeepers and accountants bring our records up to date? The answer is no. Come on in and see me now, bad records and all. It's all right. It happens. I want to know if all tax returns have been filed on time, if any taxes are owed. If taxes are owed, Chapter 11 is a great place to use to pay back delinquent taxes over time, but you only get a certain period of time to pay most taxes back, taxes called priority taxes. So I need to know before a bankruptcy is filed whether your company owes any of these priority taxes. Lawsuits. I want to know about lawsuits. I want to know who's suing the company, how much, why are they suing. I want to know if there's blood in the creditor's veins or if the creditor is really looking for money. An important difference, because if the creditor is really out for money, there is possibly a deal that needs to be made if we need to make it. I want to know about the assets of the company. Let me tell you something that sometimes happens. Sometimes owners will puff up the value of the assets. I don't need asset values puffed up. I really need to know what did they cost and what can they sell for today. Because if the assets aren't worth as much as the owners would like them to be worth, there are strategies in Chapter 11 I can use to help make money for the company because the asset values are lower. If the asset values are higher, that gives me room to negotiate deals with certain kinds of creditors. It's okay, one way or the other. I just want to know what the likely real values of the assets of the company are. I want to know about guarantees. Guarantees are a phenomenally rich area to work out deals, agreements with creditors during Chapter 11 cases, and let me explain. My client in a Chapter 11 is the company. It is not the guarantor. It is not the owner typically of the company. And owners of companies sign so many guarantees. I'll ask owners in the first meeting, so have you signed any guarantees? Answer comes back, no, I don't sign those things. By the time we're finished going through the papers, there were 5 or 10 guarantees out there that the owner didn't even realize had been signed. And they are insidious. They pop up in unexpected places. I want to know about the guarantees for this reason. Suppose there are 5 guarantees out there for $5 million. I file a bankruptcy. No one can sue the company at this point, but they can sue the guarantors. So the creditors sue the guarantors. If there are guarantees out there, I want to know about them so that we can go in, sue in the bankruptcy court, and get an order from the federal bankruptcy judge stopping their lawsuits. And we can stop it up to 2 points in time. The first point in time is stopping the lawsuits up until the plans are approved. That injunction can generally be gotten, not always, but if we have the right facts, we typically can get that injunction. And now, the second injunction. This one is harder to get, but it can be gotten. And this is an injunction that takes over from the old injunction. When plan payments start and go all the way out for 2, 3, 5, 10 years until plan payments are over. An injunction that stops the guarantee lawsuits against the owners. That is real powerful stuff, and it leads to deal making. And that's part of what Chapter 11 is about, deal making. So I want to know about the guarantors. It is important. I also want to know who the unsecured creditors are. Who are they? How much are they owed? How come you owe so much to a particular creditor? What happened? Which creditors do business with you still? Which don't? Which ones do you have credit with? Which ones don't you have credit terms with? Which creditors are critical vendors? And I'll briefly explain this. I get people calling me up on corporate bankruptcies and say, oh, and I want the critical vendors taken care of. And so there's a lot of stuff about critical vendors out there, but not a lot of understanding. In most bankruptcy cases that are small or medium-sized Chapter 11s, there are 1 or 2 or 3 vendors who really are critical. The business will fail without them. And these vendors are saying, we will not do business with you, debtor, unless our pre-bankruptcy debt is paid now. Once a company files a bankruptcy, it may not pay pre-bankruptcy debt without the court's consent. I had a company one time, many years ago. It did rush orders of clothing, jeans, and it had to turn over tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of jeans in a matter of days. To produce jeans, it needed to have certain dyes, color dyes. You could get color dyes from one supplier back east or another one in Los Angeles. My company did business with the one in Los Angeles because that was closer to my company's place of business, and they could get the dyes in pretty quickly. However, my client, the debtor company, owed the supplier in Los Angeles money, a lot of money. So the supplier in Los Angeles said, I'll do business with you, but you have to give me my pre-bankruptcy debt. You have to pay it. At that point, I'll do business with you. In our facts, that truly was a critical vendor. The bankruptcy judge agreed, and that critical vendor was paid. I want to know who your critical vendors are. Can't guarantee payment, but we can make a difference. And by the way, with critical vendors, I've learned that even when I go to bat, file the paperwork, try to get the critical vendor paid, and I fail, the critical vendors typically appreciate the fight, and they do business with the debtor. I want to know about leases, office leases, factory leases, vehicle leases, machinery and equipment leases. Sometimes we can renegotiate leases, or even better, sometimes the leases, once I've looked at them, are easy to figure out. They aren't leases. They're really purchase agreements that are made to look like lease agreements. And if they really are purchase agreements, we have some ways of making good money from those disguised purchase agreements. I also want to know about your management style, your leadership style, because sometimes there are problems with how someone runs a company. Sometimes it can be a simple fix. Sometimes it's more complicated, but it is important that the employees feel safe, the customers feel appreciated, and the creditors feel that they're going to get paid. And sometimes it's a problem with management. I also want to know, what is your vision? What is your vision for 5-10 years out? Sometimes owners will say, I just want a job to go to every day. I want to make a good living. I want to take a 3-week vacation every summer. And that's what I want. That's important for me to know. Other times, the owner will say, I want the Chapter 11 because it's going to give me a cleaned up balance sheet and I'm going to grow the company. I want your help, but I'm going to grow the company and I'm going to sell the company in 5-10 years from now and make millions and millions and millions of dollars, and then I'm going to do something else. I want to know because your goals help me figure out what to do in the Chapter 11 case. It is not infrequent that an owner will say to me, Well, you don't know my business. You don't know anything about my business. My answer back is, you're right. I don't know anything about your business when it is operating properly, when it is operating well. That's something you know. What I know about are troubled businesses, and that's what your business is, a troubled business. For over 30 years, I've been working with troubled businesses. I've had to use creativity. I've had to use resourcefulness. I've had to plumb my brain and the owner's brains. I've had to go everywhere possible to figure out how to make the company work. But that's the business that I'm in. I have a good team, and we work to make your company better. Unlike most attorneys, I believe that a successful Chapter 11 business reorganization is one where the company, which is broken, gets fixed and can succeed in the future. Most attorneys who do Chapter 11 work believe that a successful Chapter 11 is when the judge approves a plan. But let's face it, if you have a failed company and an approved plan, what you really have is nothing more than failure. I want the successful business so I can have a successful plan. I have over 30 years of experience representing both debtors in business Chapter 11s and creditors. If you think your company may be headed on the road to bankruptcy, pick up the phone, call me, let's talk, email me, do something. I know it can be hard to take the step of calling or emailing, but it's necessary. The next video will be one of 2 videos on finding the right attorney and really on what happens when you find the wrong bankruptcy attorney. Take care.